music. Stateside, punk in the era of Reagan. I vividly remember the eerie feeling of collective defeat in the air on the evening of Trump's first election. At the time, I was living in a studio in West Oakland. As the night wore on and the election was called for Trump, most of the people still hanging around the studio muttered about the dark path the country was heading down. But one friend and coworker turned to me with a sarcastic grin and said, "Well, at least we'll get some great music out of this." All I could do was nod sadly. Even then, I wasn't so optimistic about a cultural uprising. I remember looking at the poster covered walls of the rehearsal space, thinking about all of the protest music made by the artists on those walls and wondering what it really amounted to. I didn't see any signs of a 1960s style anti war music revival or a punk style anti Reagan backlash. Maybe that's because Trump was a different beast than Reagan, less of a political figure and more of a spectacle, whereas Reagan was the ideal totem for anti authoritarian music. Reagan wasn't just an actor turned president, he had a long political career from his time as the head of the Screen Actors Guild to his tenure as governor of California. He was always an avatar of conservative law and order politics. As governor, he openly railed against the growing countercultural movements of the time. Unlike Trump, Reagan was the perfect adult enemy for adolescent angst. As Reagan rose to national prominence, the original poster boy of UK punk, the Sex Pistols, imploded, effectively ending the first wave of punk music. Of course, punk didn't die with the Pistols, but many of their contemporaries shifted direction, giving rise to post punk, new wave, new romantic, goth, and other subgenres that leaned into style more than substance. In the US, punk morphed into hardcore. A new generation of disaffected youth was coming of age, facing a declining quality of life compared to their parents. This generation rebelled against the emerging conservative ideal of polo shirts and sitcom consumption. They understood who was leading the conservative rebellion, the man in the White House. And just like a generation prior, their rage was aimed squarely at the president. This generation of brash rockers wasn't interested in giving peace a chance. Their anger was violent and pointed directly at the commander in chief, who they saw as the architect of the nation's decline. Let's not forget it was Reagan, not Trump, who first popularized the call to make America great again. Our guest today writes in his latest book, Hardcore Punk in the Era of Reagan, quote, "The lyrics of Reagan oriented releases are more than rage filled rantings of kids. Rather, they are insightful statements of concern expressed through a musical style that was aggressive and violent, and through words that were often profane and macabre, at times witty and riddled with sarcasm, but always honest in terms of the anger and concern felt by those who wrote them. If punk was really about making the world a better place, the 1980s version of it could not avoid the one person many felt was making it worse. To them, Reagan was the problem, and they made sure to let anyone listening know." Unquote. Join us as we discuss hardcore punk and the Reagan rebellion with